The stuff that worked 5 years ago to grow your painting business, even 10 years ago, just doesn't work today. 5 years ago, you could knock 20 doors and come home with a full day of estimates. Now you knock 20 doors and you're lucky to get one. 5 years ago, you could spend $1,000 on Facebook ads and book up your entire month. Now you spend that same $1,000 running your own ads and you may get a couple of leads. Maybe one or two of them book into estimates, and if you're lucky, maybe one small job. And you're basically lighting money on fire because the person running the ads, which is usually you, isn't doing this full time. And that matters now more than it ever has. 5 years ago, you could buy leads on Angie for $500 and get real homeowners who actually picked up the phone. Maybe, 3 contractors got that same lead, but now you spend that same $500, you get less leads, nobody answers the phone, and if they do, they're already juggling 10 other estimates they've already booked. And so the game hasn't changed, it's just evolving, and most painters haven't caught up so yet. So today I want to walk through the 5 biggest shifts that I've seen happening in the marketing space for painting companies right now. And if you understand these, you'll know exactly where to put your energy and your money going into 2026. So the first trend that I've found is that you need to do more volume. And it's something that nobody really wants to hear because marketing honestly has gotten harder. It's gotten more crowded. Every year there are more painting companies and more painting companies that are advertising. There's more people running Facebook ads, more people on Google, more competition in every single channel, and it's harder than it ever has been. Now, on top of that, the platforms themselves have changed to reward volume. So Meta rolled out their Andromeda update, which completely shifted how ads got distributed. The same winning ad that carried accounts for years, where you maybe had to have 3 or 5 of those, they're now dead. And the algorithm doesn't let one broad ad dominate anymore. So it wants creative diversity, it wants more concepts, it wants more angles, it wants more content in general. And so the same effort you used to put in just doesn't go as far. So if you ran 5 ads again before, now you need to run 10 or 15. And so it's the same, but you just have to do more. And this is with honestly most of the channels here. So, you used to be able to call a lead a couple of times and book the estimate. Now you need to call them 5, 6, 7 times just to get someone on the phone. So the follow-up game has changed. And so it's just more volume than anything else. And with that more volume, you get more data and you get more insight on how to improve your advertising, your follow-ups, etc. So overall, across the board, just doing more will get you more, and you need to do more to make these things work. Okay, so trend number 2 is Google pay-per-click is dead for the most part. Okay, so it's just not nearly what it used to be. The fundamentals are still the same. You pay for a click, that's what you get billed for, right? But it's an auction-based system, meaning if you used to spend $5 a click, you're now spending 20. And that's for 2 reasons. 1, there's more painters that are advertising, and 2, these lead aggregators are spending more money. So when you think Angie, Thumbtack, Home Advisor, they spent nearly $200 million last year just on digital advertising. And with that, they can spend $20 on that same click without blinking an eye. You can't. And so because of all that, the best return I've seen with pay-per-click was an 8x return. And that sounds great on paper until you realize that company was already ranking number 1 organically for most of the keywords they were bidding on. So they were paying for visibility they already owned, and it just didn't really make much sense. And so you can consistently get better returns in other places. So unless you've got a very large budget and you've scaled everything else out, I wouldn't really recommend PPC anymore. Trend number 3 is you need to be everywhere. So most painters have always thought, okay, they need to do one thing really well, which is true, right? So you run Facebook ads or door-to-door, rely on referrals, you pick one, and that's good. That's enough. And that's not wrong because it still can work, but it's not enough anymore if you really want to build a brand and trust. And you want to be that go-to painting company in your area. You need to be showing up everywhere people look, not just one platform. Yes, you need to be on Meta, but you also need to wrap your trucks. Put lawn signs out there, on job sites, right? You need to do direct mail, run remarketing ads, have a clean professional website. And all this comes back to building a real brand behind you, your team. Your team should be wearing t-shirts with your logo on it. And I've even seen painters do billboards. And you might not necessarily see a return with these things, but it's investing in people seeing you in multiple places. And here's why this matters. So Google did a study and they found what's called the 7-11-4 rule. Most marketers have heard of this. Before someone trusts a business enough to buy, they need about 7 hours exposure to you, over 11 different touch points, and 4 different mediums. So if you want to think about what that actually looks like, maybe they see your wrap truck in traffic for a couple of hours over the course of a few weeks. They then scroll past an hour's worth of your content on social media. They then see 30 minutes of your ads. They then meet you in person for the estimate and spend 2.5 hours with you there. That's the 7 hours. Now, across their feed, their neighborhood, their inbox, and their front door, that is 4 different mediums. Now, 11 separate times, they've seen your name, right? So they've seen you in a bunch of different spots 11 times. And that's how trust gets built in 2026. And that's what we call an omni-channel approach. It matters a lot, right? So you might not see a direct return again from every single one of these, but long-term it will compound and people will start recommending you even if they've never used you. Like, think about it. You probably know a company, maybe an HVAC company in your head right now. Maybe it's ABC Heating. I don't know. But there's one. And the reason there is one is because they've showed up everywhere. They built that brand, they built that name, and it's just stuck. That's what you're building towards. Now, if you're trying to figure out which channels to actually invest in and what makes sense for your market, click the link below and schedule a call. I've thrown in the description. We're going to go through your numbers, your setup, and talk about what this looks like for your business specifically. If we can help, we'll talk about that. Otherwise, you have a game plan to work on. Okay, so trend number 4, trust is the new currency. So if you noticed, homeowners have gotten a lot smarter. They don't just want to quote, they want to trust the person behind it. You can't just be a truck and a ladder anymore, right? If you want to charge premium prices, you have to look like a premium business, which ties into the last one here. That means more reviews, more videos, more real proof of your work, more of your face and your story out there. Because people buy from painters or business owners in general who feel human. They want to see your projects, your team, and your clients, even your dog in the background, right? Like they just want to know who you are before working with you. And so it's just all about building trust in your local marketplace. And the thing is it compounds. So you may have ran a Facebook ad for 6 months and your face was out there, but now you run it for 2 years and you become that guy, that go-to painter. And so that's why 3 and 4 really do tie into each other here, is you want to be doing a lot of this in a bunch of different places with these sort of ads, right? So reviews, testimonials, etc., telling about your story, all that fun stuff. And so you have 3 and 4 in tandem, and that's what builds a brand long-term in a market. And with a brand, you can charge more, you close at a higher percentage, and your ads become more efficient. And so that's where the real leverage really kicks in. So the last trend number 5, is meta ads are a completely different game now, okay? So meta ads are fundamentally different than what they were 3 years ago, 5 years ago. It's not even close. Let's start with the algorithm, right? So it used to be that you could run 3 or 4 creatives, you could target the right zip codes, and the platform handled the rest. I mean, you could do some more targeting, but now you need 15 or 20 creatives running at any given time. The algorithm wants options, it wants variety, and if you don't give it enough to work with your account, it just starves. And so the strategy is completely different too. Before you could get away with just targeting the right audience, right? So you could call it a day there. Now you need a creative to do that targeting, right? So it's a creative strategy with the creative volume. Different ad concepts for different types of homeowners, different awareness levels, different motivations. The whole thing has to be thought through. And what we're actually putting out there has changed. We're not just throwing up a generic before and after, or even like a generic selfie style video anymore. We have to have a more encompassing strategy with it. And it's about building trust and building your brand through all of these, but also handling objections and going through the different areas that different people may want to see. We're also testing a lot more formats now, and testing has become the single most important part of all this. As you can imagine, when you're running this many creatives, this many different versions, you want to make sure you have a bunch of different versions that actually work. And here's the thing, it's really hard to test creative properly on a small budget. You just don't have enough data. You don't know what's actually working versus what got you a lucky ad for a week. And that's where working with a marketing partner like us makes a real difference, because we run the same kind of creative, same kind of concepts across 50, 60 accounts at a time. And so we can know what style of ad generates the most leads, the most quotes, and the most jobs, not just in your market, but across all of them. And so we're always at the forefront of what creative to run, even on a tight budget. So the bottom line is this: meta requires a lot more expertise now than it ever has. A lot more creative, a lot more strategy, and it's a lot more competitive. And all that together is why so many painters trying to run their own ads end up burning the money. The platform still works, it's just the game is changing, the strategy is changing, and people are still playing it by the old rules. So those are the 5 shifts that I've seen personally. There's more competition, means you need more volume, more consistency. Google pay-per-click isn't working as well as it used to. You need to be showing up everywhere, not just one platform, so you can build that trust and social proof. And overall on Meta specifically, you need more creative, more strategy, and more expertise than it ever has. So to recap, marketing isn't dying, it is evolving, right? And the painters who evolve with it are going to grow in the next decade, right? The ones that don't are going to have their phone that stop ringing. And at PaintLaunch, we spend more on paid ads each year than most painting businesses make in revenue. So we know what's working today and not what worked just 6 months ago, right? So if you want to see what this looks like inside of your painting business, click the link below. We'll go through your numbers, your content, and your market. If what you're doing is working, I'll tell you to keep scaling it. If it's not, I'll show you what to fix. Either way, you'll leave with clarity. And the question for you is going to have to be, are you going to evolve with advertising in 2026, or are you going to wait until it's too late?